September 17th and 18th, 2024, will forever be remembered as the days when our faith in technology was not just shaken, but utterly shattered. What began as an ordinary morning quickly spiraled into a nightmare that no one could have predicted. The world awoke to a new kind of terror, one that hid in plain sight, nestled in the very devices we trusted most. Thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies, once the lifelines of communication for families, businesses, and emergency workers, suddenly became deadly weapons across Lebanon and Syria. These were not just gadgets, they were the threads that connected communities, now turned against their users in a horrifying twist. These devices, long favored by Hezbollah for their perceived security and reliability, exploded in a meticulously coordinated, state-sponsored attack. The precision and scale of the operation left authorities and civilians alike reeling, as the very tools, meant to protect and empower, became instruments of destruction. The blasts killed dozens and injured thousands, civilians, paramedics, even children, turning everyday electronics into instruments of terror. Streets once filled with the hum of daily life were transformed into scenes of chaos and heartbreak as families searched desperately for loved ones amid the wreckage. The first wave targeted pagers, the second walkie-talkies, striking at funerals and community centers, amplifying the horror. Places meant for mourning and healing became new epicenters of fear, as the attacks showed no respect for grief or sanctuary. Hospitals, already crippled by Lebanon's ongoing economic crisis, were overwhelmed by the sudden influx of wounded. Medical staff worked tirelessly, but resources were stretched to the breaking point, and the sense of helplessness was palpable. The attack sent a chilling message: no device is safe, and no place is sacred. The simple act of reaching for a phone or radio became a moment of dread, as uncertainty and suspicion crept into every interaction with technology. In a flash, the promise of technology as progress was replaced by the reality of its destructive potential. People everywhere began discarding their devices in panic, unsure of what could be trusted and what might be a hidden threat. The aftermath was chaos, disbelief, and a fundamental loss of trust in the devices we rely on. The sense of security that technology once provided was gone, replaced by fear and confusion that rippled through every community. For the first time, electronics became booby traps in the hands of ordinary people. The line between friend and foe, between safety and danger, blurred beyond recognition, as even the most mundane objects became suspect. The world watched in horror as the line between tool and weapon vanished. In those 2 days, the very foundation of our digital lives was shaken, leaving us to question not just the safety of our devices, but the future of technology itself. The shock of the Lebanon attacks spread worldwide, sending ripples of fear through every continent and every community. News anchors spoke in urgent tones and headlines screamed warnings that no one could ignore. Suddenly, paranoia became a part of daily life, infecting even the most mundane routines. People glanced over their shoulders, wondering if the device in their pocket or on their desk could betray them. Every electronic device, a phone, a TV, a laptop, was now viewed with suspicion. The familiar glow of a screen no longer brought comfort, but a sense of unease. Even children's toys weren't spared. Parents dismantled gadgets, searching for hidden dangers, desperate to protect their families from invisible threats. Online forums exploded with DIY inspection guides and conspiracy theories. People shared tips on how to spot tampered devices, fueling a cycle of fear and suspicion. The fear was justified. If pagers could be weaponized, what about everything else? Corporations scrambled to audit their products, launching frantic investigations into their own supply chains. Governments too questioned the integrity of their hardware, ordering sweeping security checks and emergency meetings to assess the risks. Trust in the global supply chain evaporated overnight. Shipments were delayed, and warehouses stood empty as goods were held back for inspection. Every beep, buzz, or notification became a source of anxiety. People hesitated before answering calls, fearing what might be lurking on the other end. The digital age's promise of convenience was now overshadowed by suspicion. Families unplugged smart devices, and living rooms grew quieter, but not calmer. This wasn't just about stolen data anymore. It was about the possibility of physical harm from the most mundane objects, from alarm clocks to kitchen appliances. The attacks weaponized trust itself, turning neighbors, co-workers, and even friends into potential threats. Suspicion seeped into every interaction. Millions were left to wonder if their technology might one day turn on them, or if the next attack would come from the most unexpected place. The world had entered a new era, one where the price of connectivity was a constant, gnawing paranoia, and no one could be sure what was safe anymore. The September attacks were a masterclass in supply chain sabotage. Instead of hacking software, the perpetrators compromised devices during manufacturing or distribution. Pagers and walkie-talkies were embedded with explosives, indistinguishable from normal devices. Israeli intelligence, through a front company, infiltrated the production line in Taiwan, hiding deadly components inside. The result, ordinary electronics transformed into weapons, impossible for users to detect. This exposed a critical vulnerability. Modern devices pass through countless hands and countries before reaching us. Any step in this chain can be exploited by a determined actor. The attacks proved that the global supply chain can be hijacked for terror, not just commerce. Trust in hardware is now a luxury few can afford. The world learned that the very engine of modern life can also deliver destruction. The panic didn't stop with the public. Governments and intelligence agencies were thrown into crisis. Overnight, the very institutions meant to protect society found themselves scrambling for answers, their confidence shaken to the core. The sense of control they once projected evaporated as the scale of the threat became clear. The realization that any device could be weaponized led to mass disposal of electronics, computers, phones, even servers. Entire government buildings were swept for hidden vulnerabilities, and anything remotely suspicious was removed. The air was thick with urgency and fear, as if every screen or circuit board might be a ticking time bomb. This wasn't a recall, it was a wholesale rejection of technology, tainted by fear. The digital tools that had powered governments for decades were now seen as liabilities, not assets. The purge was swift, indiscriminate, and left offices eerily silent, stripped of the hum of machines. Agencies reverted to face-to-face meetings and paper, slowing operations and exposing vulnerabilities. Secure rooms filled with the rustle of paper replaced encrypted chat rooms. The shift was jarring. Decades of digital progress erased in days, replaced by old habits and analog tools. Modern warfare, built on network data, suddenly seemed dangerously fragile. Command centers that once buzzed with digital activity now sat in uneasy silence, their screens dark. The military's technological edge, painstakingly built over years, was now a glaring vulnerability. The attacks forced Western agencies to confront their own history of supply chain sabotage, now turned against them. The irony was bitter. The very tactics once used to undermine adversaries had come home to roost, leaving leaders to question the wisdom of their own strategies. The tools of espionage had become double-edged swords. Devices designed for surveillance and control were now sources of anxiety, handled with suspicion and gloves. Trust in technology, once absolute, had been shattered. The Lebanon attacks were a wake-up call. No nation is immune to the tactics it once pioneered. The shockwaves rippled through capitals worldwide, forcing leaders to reconsider their reliance on digital infrastructure and the global reach of technological threats. The retreat from technology was costly, paranoid, and perhaps inevitable. The price was measured not just in discarded hardware, but in lost productivity, broken trust, and a profound sense of vulnerability that would linger for years. The very systems built for security had become sources of existential risk. In the end, the digital fortress had become a prison of uncertainty, leaving governments to wonder if true safety was ever possible in a world so deeply wired. Turning everyday objects into weapons isn't new. It's a dark tradition in warfare and espionage. Military manuals from the 1960s detailed how to booby-trap phones, radios, even desks. The goal: make the familiar terrifying, and trust impossible. Intelligence agencies have long used this tactic, from the 1996 cell phone assassination of Hamas's Yahya Ayyash to explosive-laden USB sticks sent to journalists in 2023. Terrorist groups have published guides on weaponizing household items. The Lebanon attacks were the latest, most devastating chapter in this lineage. The difference now is scale. Entire populations, not just individuals, are at risk. The line between civilian and combatant objects has blurred beyond recognition. The booby-trapped device is now a global threat, not just a spy's trick. The world condemned the attacks as violations of international law, but the law proved powerless. Protocols banning booby traps disguised as harmless objects were ignored. Israel denied involvement publicly, while officials privately confirmed responsibility, citing military necessity. No sanctions followed. No court proceedings began. The attacks exposed the impotence of treaties when powerful states act with impunity. Laws meant to protect civilians became mere suggestions. The message was clear. For those with enough power, accountability is optional. The world witnessed a war crime in real time, with no consequences. International law, in this case, was little more than a paper shield. For Lebanon, the attacks were a devastating blow to a nation already in crisis. Hospitals, starved of resources, were overwhelmed by thousands of casualties. The psychological impact was even greater. Suddenly, any device could be a bomb. Panic and rumors spread, with people fearing everything from TVs to refrigerators. The government's ban on pagers and walkie-talkies did little to calm the public. Many saw the attacks as a prelude to a larger war, recalling the horrors of 2006. Trust evaporated, neighbors eyed each other with suspicion, and technology became a source of dread. The attacks isolated people, fraying the last threads of social cohesion. For Lebanon, it was not just a loss of life, but a loss of normalcy and hope. The Lebanon attacks obliterated the boundary between combatant and civilian. By targeting widely used devices, the perpetrators ensured that innocents would be caught in the blast. Funerals, homes, and public spaces became war zones. The principle of distinction, the heart of the laws of war, was abandoned. Fear and suspicion spread, undermining the trust that holds communities together. Civilian immunity became collateral damage in the pursuit of psychological terror. The message: in this new kind of warfare, no one is truly safe. The attacks left a deep scar on our relationship with technology. The foundation of our digital world, trust in devices and supply chains, has been shaken. Nations may turn inward, building their own hardware and fragmenting the global tech landscape. Ordinary people may seek simpler, more transparent devices, or demand the right to inspect and repair their own electronics. The era of blind trust in technology is over. We face a choice: demand accountability and security, or accept a future of perpetual suspicion. The hum of our devices now carries a whisper of fear, a reminder that progress and peril are forever intertwined.